So welcome to the bridge. I have a happy little group of friends here today. I like that a lot. It's wonderful to welcome these three wonderful humans who have a story to tell and a connected story at that. And I'll start with Toutoule, then maybe Toutoule, you can introduce Amarpal and Nick because our story is one that I think I want to tell and how we got to know each other. So maybe just introduce yourself. Your bio will be in the notes, but anything you just want to share.
Yeah, hey everybody. My name is Dr. Toutoule Ntoya. And I wear a lot of different hats now. I'm in this weird space in my career, and I'm doing some work with Nick, Dr. Neeraj Satyal, and Dr. Amarpal Khanna. The three of us kind of got together um, working at a charter school, and Nick and I were working at the school, and then Am would come over as a music teacher. And
Mm.
somehow we just I don't know, Nick and Am, I think you guys were connected, and somehow we became friends. I don't know what the connection, I never knew what the connection is between y'all two. Is it just the ICEF thing?
Yeah,
ICEF thing, yeah.
yeah.
What's that thing? What is it?
Oh, ICEF it's a charter management organization here in LA.
Okay.
And they're primarily in South LA. And we were at one of their schools. They had a flagship school, and then they opened some subsequent campuses, which Nick and I were at.
Mm.
I think Am, you were at the OG campus.
Yeah, so Toto, if I were to back up a little bit, he's underselling it a little bit, just a tad.
Love
ICEF
it.
Public Schools stands for Inner City Education Foundation. I know that the name, the nomenclature is a little dated in that, but it was one of the first CMOs before the terminology CMO was even in large use. It was initially just a fledgling charter school in Los Angeles. So saying that in the context that Los Angeles is the second largest city in the country, that's not a small thing to note. Were there other things happening? Were there other programs? Absolutely. But you could say ICEF Public Schools was certainly in the zeitgeist and in the moment of the late 90s, early 2000s of being at the forefront of that push, messaging what the charter movement was at that time. To the best knowledge of all players involved, including communities, educators, admins, etc. And a lot of the stuff around kind of like the flavor of a more liberal capital regime and how it fit into that. That conversation in terms of the critical aspect of it hadn't necessarily been brought out into the consciousness as yet. So we were true believers. I think everybody at that moment in time, in those early days, we were all true believers in the power of the community being involved in education, parents being involved in education, especially in communities that historically have been marginalized or set aside from being involved. So that's kind of like where we were. We were in that bubble and on the bubble of the movement as well.
That's amazing. I don't know, Tutul, if I've ever shared this with you, but I started my career in New York City at a continuation high school. And then my second year I moved to LA and I worked at Stella Middle Charter Academy, which right there. Bright Star Schools. Yeah. So I was there from 2003 to 2008. And that was my heart. I mean, it was everything. It would talk about like everything you said, Paul, about like the community and finally giving resources to community members and families and lived it. I'm gonna like get all teared up because it was a great description, and I'm glad to have been a part of it on some level too, because it was pretty incredible.
Amazing. So you were doing the charter thing when in the right there and looking back, looking back at that time. And you said it so eloquently. But we were like in a movement. And we didn't realize it. We were just like going to work every day, working.
We were doing what was right by our souls, and the next thing you knew, go ahead, Nick.
I mean, it was a time when like the school reform movement had really kind of gotten to the top of the surface there, where we were like, hey, schools are overcrowded. We were starting to realize like the community, like the neighborhood schools were not serving kids at best at the way was structured. I mean, we were at a time where schools were the answer was just building more schools,
Right.
like, hey, let's figure out tracking. And those are like all fine and good, but it wasn't enough. So
No.
then the charter schools started emerging to really provide like this opportunity to like have a to give kids a better outcome.
Yeah.
And then B, it started to create a conversation around like, hey, how do we actually best service students? It's so interesting now. We're in 2000, that was back 2003, 2008, even
Right.
late 90s. Now we're in 2025 and the conversation is completely different because at Los Angeles, like, because with all the other forces around, I mean, Toutoule and you both alluded to capitalism here,
Yeah.
where we're talking about like, hey, market forces, like we have less working families that are here. Now we have less students that are here. Now it's about like what school, what parent, if you're a parent, where's the best space for your kids? And now we're like having this whole different conversation around that and wondering if like even we have even the space to have all of these schools. So it's interesting just to see how all this evolved.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting with you two gentlemen, like just going through this journey around things, because Amarpal is now in the community college system. Toutoule's kind of in multiple spaces. I'm helping some schools and Toutoule's helping me do this too. It's helping keep some schools, keep the lights on some schools, the lights on for some schools through helping math outcomes. So we're doing a lot of different things to like as a result of this.
Yep.
Nick, I believe you're an edupreneur.
I don't know about
The
that.
correct term.
I think so.
I'm just trying to help kids learn math.
The-
What I've been trying to do for the last 20 years.
Yeah. But you know, the other piece too is looking holistically at all the options that were available at the time. In that context, with LA being the second largest city in the country, and I could speak to my personal experience, I graduated from an LAUSD high school, right? And LAUSD high schools, I graduated and then was fortunate enough to be able to go on to college. I went to a smallish liberal arts college, fine arts college, and my fine arts college had less students at the time than the population of my high school. The population of my high school was, you know, typical urban, large, consolidated high school. I want to say there was 5,000 students there, something like that. It was insane. And with the kind of, you know, we talk about market forces and different players coming into the space, some of the reforms and changes we see now because of the charter movement, we see these large consolidated schools now broken up into small learning academies that are housed on the formerly large single campus that are specialized in, you know, entrepreneurship or global studies, science, and art. And those four little academies are on one large campus. So, you know, some of those things, competition breeds innovation.
Innovation, yeah.
That is some of the good things that did come out of it as it affected traditional public education.
I agree. Yeah. And I know that I've been dialed in over the last 7-8 years, just watching and now participating in the CTE movement. And so I'm curious, like so much of what you described, Amarpal, is like makes me think of like all of the opportunities that have come through career technical education, through dual enrollment, like by taking the system and shaking it up and going, what if we did it just a little bit better to get a bigger bang for our buck for our students? And that's, I mean, I'm interested to hear like Nick from your perspective and Toutoule from your community perspective, and then from the community college perspective, is that like what has CTE done to your worlds? And then together, you know, how do you think we got here?
I'll talk before Nick, Am does, because Am is like neck deep in CTE.
Okay.
I was involved in CTE. I helped start a few campuses, start the CTE program.
Right.
And LA Unified, they've been all in on CTE. They had a whole grant fund. They got this huge funding. And what it's done to schools and the resources that it's given to schools and the schools that I was working with, they would have never had access to these
Mm-mm.
these high end pieces of machines, but then also teachers to leverage those machines to give kids an authentic learning experience. So seeing that roll out and seeing how much passion there is statewide and the
Yeah.
appetite statewide to develop these CTE programs has been really interesting to see. But then also, I always wonder, what do these CTE programs look like in schools for our, Black and brown kids? Are they
Right.
getting the same kind of opportunities to get into these programs?
Yep.
Are they able to pipeline to the community colleges where
Yep.
AM is working and get these high end experiences? And how do we make sure that these programs can really hit those students so they have this opportunity to be in these programs? Because they're fantastic.
Yeah.
I love CTE programs and the possibilities that they have.
Yeah.
And kind of just piggybacking on that, it's kind of back to like thinking about the kind of the school reform movement again. It's like this idea of like it's kind of come around for full circle, because I mean, when we were entering the school spaces, it was all about college readiness, college readiness, college readiness.
Right.
And now we're actually kind of evolving into that space around, and it's interesting how, even how the real estate of these charter schools and like new schools were built, because they stopped doing like shop rooms, and they stopped doing the auto room or what have
Right.
you, the auto garage and what have you. And now we're kind of coming full circle and saying, hey, wait, not every student may want to necessarily go to college, and we need to provide them space to like to be the person they want to be, and be the citizen they want to be. And that's where CTE really is valued and it's highly important. So it's interesting to see how the whole thing has come full circle now. Am, you have a better insight because you get them at the next step now with once they graduate from high school and come to you.
Absolutely. I mean, Cate mentioned two things that are, you could consider them as two initiatives of the same coin, which is dual enrollment and CTE. Both are kind of designed and set up to be relevant to the workforce, but also in terms of moving students through the programs, getting maybe unnecessary classes. There's a lot of prerequisites once they get to the college level, kind of removing, setting students up for as much success as possible, right? And especially where CTE comes into play. My wheelhouse is visual and media arts. So I am a visual artist by trade. I worked in the animation industry, illustration, graphic design, sequential art. And then my pathway into education was the cusp of that charter movement. I started in K-12, then moved into higher ed. And so it's interesting where I'm at right now at LACC. We have dual enrollment programs that are super robust. We have dozens, I think 24 high school partners, and we both do dual enrollment and CTE programs. Now, they're aligned with what the college offers. So the School of Visual Media Arts, for instance, like we have photography and graphic design and illustration and esports and game arts and design, and animation in terms of certificates and degrees that we offer. And so there's a request, Nick had mentioned there's no more auto shop.
Yeah.
There's no more of these kind of, professional level, blue collar, hands-on types of jobs. So those things have been replaced by the digital, I don't want to say the digital equivalent of that, but the digital skill sets. So our students, if we're talking practical, are they learning Adobe Illustrator? Are they learning Adobe Photoshop? If they want to go into the animation industry, what apps and programs are relevant to that field? If they want to learn photography, so those same things, those particular disciplines. So we introduce the foundation level of those courses for dual enrollment, combined with the CTE requirements. So students are getting those skill sets. Now, here's something interesting. We've done both dual enrollment that is out at a school site. We send an instructor there. They work on site. Sometimes those campuses have CTE grants already in play. So they might have full computer labs. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just have Chromebooks. But here's the interesting thing. We also have CTE dual enrollment on site, on campus. over the summer. And what I found is that students who enroll in those classes, A, they're super highly motivated. B, the idea of the pathway in those offerings is like, oh, they're going to use it and then fast track into a community college, maybe not even necessarily LACC, get the AA, and then transfer out.
Mhm.
The kids who are really savvy, they're taking those classes, and a lot of them they skip the community college part. They use it to front load to jump right into a 4-year university.
But like 2 years in.
Yeah.
Wow.
But because a lot of the rules and regulations around that have been loosened, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But the other thing is we're finding is that they're super tech savvy. So they may already, because they're digital natives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they may not know the terminology or the vocabulary, the technical pieces of, okay, here's how you do something in Photoshop. But they're using an off-brand app on their phone already doing some of those things. They just don't know what the professional application of that is.
Yeah.
Right. So they're really way advanced. And there's less heavy lifting to do at the front end. They come in as true digital natives.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to do any technical instruction. Like, here's the app, here's the tool set, here's what you do. They just dive in. Whereas the older students, the more experienced students, I'm talking, you want to say older, I'm saying 18 and up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That come to us. Okay, what do I do now? Let me work through the first 2 modules. Let me watch the video. Am I doing it right? 17 and below, boom, there.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see that dichotomy.
Yep.
Because essentially, and let's be clear, they're 21st century students. They're 21st century learners. They were born in the 21st century. And they are like, oh, you're from the 20th century.
Yeah.
You're from the 1900s.
Right. Right. Right.
So education as a system, just to extrapolate out and get back to, talking about general academics.
Sure.
As a system, this system has not caught up to 21st century students who are from the 21st century. It's still stuck in the 1900s.
Yeah.
So that's another big problem. And I'm seeing it just because of the tech aspect of these instructional disciplines. We're really on the front end. Moore's law is that tech evolves every 6 months. Now it's sped up. It's probably every 2 months cycle, especially, another topic, generative AI.
Yeah, right.
General AI and how that's impacting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so CTE dual enrollment is amazing. It's great. It's helping the students go through, but at the same time, I don't know that we're moving fast enough to keep up with this.
Oh my gosh. No, and no, I think that's a really good point. And it makes me think of too, Toutoule, how you were talking about, like, is all this innovation happening and including all learners, like truly all learners? And especially like with your story going back 20 years to the upheaval of school design to now, what have you all seen as far as what's working? Like, if, like, we can sit in a space of challenge or we can sit in a space of opportunity. And so when we are looking at this, what do you think is working that you would say, let's double down for our Black and our brown students? Let's double down here. What would you say we could start with?
If I had to say anything, I would say first is access. And what does access look like? I'm just thinking about the schools that we're just at today.
Yeah.
Nick, that middle school, 99% African American. And then they go on to the high school, which is also 99% African American.
Mm-hmm.
And what access do they have to some of this new technology? Because computer labs are obsolete, right? Now it's the one-to-one Chromebooks, right? One-to-one computers, laptops. Those are becoming obsolete. So what is the access point for the technology? Not just sitting a student in front of a computer and saying, press a button and go, but like, what access do we have? Do they have to create? So that's my first thinking. How do we get more of that type of access
Yeah.
into our schools? So, like Am was saying, these kids are doing all this cool stuff
Yeah.
on their phone without any guidance. Now, how do we come along as the instructors, the experts in the field, offer that guidance to them, and us move together? I think that's the big part I was thinking when Am was talking. Us moving together with students and teachers, everyone, into this new space, because it's happening. I think even us who are, in the tech space, we're still having a hard time keeping up.
Yeah.
So, like, how do we keep up together so we can all figure this out? Access and give kids opportunities to get into these next generation fields, because we're all afraid of AI, but AI is going to create brand new industries.
Yeah.
So where do our kids start to plug in now so they're ready for those industries?
Yeah.
I'll piggyback I'll piggyback on that, because I do think this idea around access is really important. It's like also just like this base of just like, how do we do that in a smart, thoughtful way? And how do we actually are able to do this at some degree of scale? Like, it was kind of like thinking about like the tutoring, like, yes, we all know tutoring helps kids, but it's also like, how do you actually make it work for each school? And I'm using tutoring as like an avatar for other things. Like, how do you bring in community members to come in to do art and theater and dance and what have you, especially when you have limited real estate? How do you actually okay, we have AI, we have an ELA class. How do we provide the training for that access? Like, we're in a space where we know the things, but it's like, how are we smart and adaptive enough to get it into a school to make it work for the students? And I do think we've gotten smarter in a lot of ways in doing that, but as the things are continuing to come in, we're always having to think about this and squint and figure it out. Like, I think like the mental health initiatives have been really important. Like, if you think about that, like, we all know, yes, students probably need more support around mental health. We've known this for 50, 60 years, and now we think it's important. Like, how does that work? How does that work with each school and each community? So I think it's like thinking about that access and like thinking about like how we actually implement that in an effective way.
Yeah, and in a sustainable way, because we know the money isn't reliable, right? Like, the money comes and goes. And yes, who could argue that mental health is not the top need of our students? And yet, at what loss? Like, what are we losing to get there, And from my perspective, being in ed tech, I mean, the assumptions are made left and right by school boards and school leaders and organizations that the teachers can do it on their own now. And I get it. I think it's all coming from a nice, positive place, but that is not the case, right? Like, this is not the time to get rid of your ed tech support. That, no, I know my heart bleeds from Toutoule and I spent a year working with these 40 educators across the state to get them ed tech, to become California State certified ed tech specialists. And most are back in the classroom or not in education at all. And and that was 4 years ago. That wasn't a long time ago.
Right. Well,
I actually have to sign off, but
oh yeah, Nick is gonna go do back to school night. So thank you.
no, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You got it.
All right, take it easy.
Continue forward. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
And what were you gonna say?
So looking over your prompt also, that in terms of like talking about tier one.
Yes.
One instruction, right? And it's part of it, right? But this is an approach that's folded into and sits alongside all these other things. We know ed tech isn't the magic bullet. Tier one education, as a framework, has its issues, right? And one of the main things, I was watching a video. There's I guess education influencer Casey Watts, and was talking about one of the problems in tier one education. One of the main things is whether it's tier 1 education or whatever, you can fill in the blank, right? I think teachers chronically feel that they don't have enough knowledge in these new systems.
Yeah.
And the schools or the systems aren't necessarily providing with enough professional development. And then once they get it, discussing with your colleagues, collaborating with the people, your peers, that you're going to be implementing this thing, whether it's tier 1 education or ed tech or anything.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like the shortage of time to really plan and do the thing. I had an interesting phenomenon. So myself, I'm an LMU grad, plug.
Plug LMU.
Yeah.
My husband went there, my dad, my brothers
Yes.
and sisters. Yep.
Yes. Both Nick and I, education leadership for social justice.
Nice.
And Toutoule's program is excellent as well over at SC.
Yep.
But there was a moment in researching and pulling together all the things for my dissertation, and it seemed like magically all the stuff I was pulling together, there was all these solutions in these journal articles written by people much smarter than I am. And I was like, and I'm also working in education at the same time. And I didn't see, it's like, oh, here's all the answers. And there's really great people in the classroom and administrators, and they didn't have access to these answers.
What's wrong here?
And it's like, there's a lot of, research. There's a lot of stuff out there. It's just, maybe it's perception, like, oh, that's academia, that's education research, that's theory. What application does it have? But I was able to take a lot of that and implement it. But I think when we talk about knowledge gap, I think there's a knowledge gap from your everyday person in the classroom, administrator at a school site. And, some of them have gone through their own dissertation programs, but then taking what is known and applying it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And implementing it, and then also making it consistent. And as you pointed out, Kate, sustainable. Right. So I think there's pieces. If we think of a train track, there's pieces, but then there's pieces of the track that it's not all connected together. So I think that's another big thing, whether they're talking about tier 1 education or any other thing. So
yeah, so what you just shared makes me wonder, Toutoule, you have spent a lot of time in maker education, and one of the things I admire about you is your ability to make everybody who you are with feel like they're capable. They're capable of creating. And I think that's a gift that you give the educators you work with. I admire you so much for that. And so where did that come from? And how does it go full circle for you when you think about your close friends that you've stayed connected with? It's not just because you guys worked together 20 years ago, right? Like, there's a reason why you're in each other's lives and why you all came on today.
Well, I mean, they invite me out and to drink beers. I can't say no to that.
There's beer
Yes, I
cake.
know.
we have beer summits.
Now I know.
No, it's I'm a science person at heart, and in order to be a scientist, you're always testing out new things, and anything is possible. Just put your mind to it, and you can make it happen. And when I was in the classroom, that was what I would always want to instill in my students, that anything is possible. You can do whatever it is you want to do. And now that I work with teachers and consult teachers, it's just amazing when you're able to just break things down. You're excited. The kid just wrote his first piece of something on the paper. That's great. Let's celebrate that. Right. So in this whole journey, you find yourself connecting with people who have kind of a similar ideology and belief in others, belief in our students. I think that's where the camaraderie comes together. And I just like being around good people, and I'm always enamored by people's stories. And being able to just be around good, smart people.
Yeah.
And Nick, Am, and I, every time till today, when we come together, we're always talking about these big problems in education. What is it going to take for us to solve it? What is it
Yeah.
going to take for the problems to be solved? And that all the three of us, we have this level of professional curiosity, and that pushes us to do the things that we're doing. And there's no, you know, and he's not going to toot his own horn, but he's going to be dean over there at LACC.
Stop
And
it.
Congratulations.
No,
there's
no.
there's no secret to why
Wish
that's going to
fulfillment.
happen,
Come on.
right? There's no secret to why that's going to happen. Nick just started his tutoring company where he's working in spaces, and all these people are coming in and they're signing up to do his tutoring program, right? So there's no reason, there's no guessing how that happened. It's all because we have this level of professional curiosity, and we go after those things. And I think that is how we all get connected together, and we're constantly pushing each other to be the best that we could be.
I love
And
it.
that's what we do. That's what we do out here, Kate.
I know, but you also like you exude it. Like I can't be in a room with you and not be smiling, ready to like try something. And doubling down on that safe space and professional curiosity. Like again, thinking about the educators that are in classrooms right now that maybe haven't been there that long, or maybe they have. Like, how often do they get a chance to just pause and wonder? Just pause and wonder. Ask why. Like lean into that. It's like we're all moving, like we're on this hamster wheel. Go, 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 go. And the nature of classrooms is that we just stop and then we start the next and we go to and I admire that about the relationship you guys all have, which is that you have this outlet and not everybody does, but that doesn't mean they can't create it or make something that looks right to them just by wondering and being curious. I love that.
Yeah. I think also to add to that, thanks to Tool, and that was really insightful and very generous. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Toutoule has been, both Toutoule and Nick, for me, have been sounding boards, have been, a safe space. You mentioned safe space. You could share the dream, no matter how audacious, and you're not going to get a negative answer. You're going to be like, that's great. Do it. Go for it. Right. And then also because of where we all started, each level, like the level up has been, like we are able to bounce off of each other. Energy, we're able to bounce off each other. Oh, you're doing that? Okay, you go home. I need to think about doing that. Okay, let me figure out. And it might not be the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, we are pushing each other as comrades, as peers, as colleagues, as friends, to our greater potential.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's one of those things where I mentioned before, like when we started in education, there was very much the thing of like we were true believers. And I to clarify that, it's not so much that we're true believers in the charter movement per se, or any given system, but true believers in the transformative power of education in students' lives, no matter what the discipline area was, whether it's, the arts or ELA or math or sciences, but that there's a true power there, right? And then a recognition of maybe there's some little spark, something that we could bring to the table to help facilitate that.
Yeah.
Right. And then with all of that, it's kind of like, okay, there's other people that feel that way. Like that the dream of the idea of education, forget the systems part of it, right? Because I think we've all been through whatever systems, and we understand that systems are man-made and they can be broken, right? But education is a universal constant, right? There's no constant but change. So how do we roll with that? How do we get that to students? Like my personal journey, one of the
Mm.
questions I saw was, what's our story? Why, I think it was like, why did we stick with it? Or what did we bring to the table through our personal story? I personally went to 8 different schools in my K-12 career.
Wow.
Not because my folks were in the military or anything like that, but they were both immigrants to the country.
Mhm.
So they had no inherent privileges. There was no like, money sitting around. There was no hedge funds
Mhm.
involved.
Mhm.
There were no businesses to inherit.
Mhm.
There was any of those kinds of things. My father, English was his third language behind uh, uh, Punjabi and Hindi and uh, German.
Wow.
Right? Actually, English was his fourth language. So he started over like in this country in his late 30s. So
Wow.
imagine starting over from scratch with nothing. You're learning a new system in a new society. My mom was a little different. She went to Catholic school in New York, but born of Jamaican immigrants. But again, it's that idea of like, how do you make something out of nothing? And my mom was always a firm believer in education. So we moved to wherever the economy was good. It was that simple. So,
Yeah.
so put it another way. Right now, there's a lot of talk about economic migration, and there's a lot of talk. We're in California about outflows and inflows, people leaving and going to states where they perceive there might be better opportunities, et cetera, right? My parents literally were that before the conversation was in their national lexicon. So I always had the question, why did your parents move so much? And it was like, it's the opportunity. Like,
Yeah.
so, so in that, migration from New York to Florida to Texas to here, I went to 8 different schools. So I got to
Wow.
see literally 8 different systems. There was all public education, it was all public school, but how it was affected regionally, what was
Mhm.
funded, what was valued. Some schools' arts was really funded and they had theaters and music rooms and art rooms and studios. Others, there was dust on the instruments and the things were falling apart. Others had great computer labs. Others had like 2 computers. So you got to see what was valued, what was funded, and what
Mhm.
that meant for the outcomes of students.
Mhm.
Um, One experience I'll share, I'll just leave it at that. When I was in Texas, uh, the counselor, this is high school, mind you, didn't even counsel per se. I showed up. My mom looked at the schedule of classes that I had after the week 1. She said, "Why are you all in the remedial classes?"
Mm.
Right? And it was basically like, "Oh, that's a black kid. Put him all in remedial classes."
Yeah.
And then my mom went down and said, "Have you seen his grades? Have you seen, and you need an advocate." I think that's another important thing. At that
Yeah.
point in time, when you're young, 15, 16, you don't necessarily know how to advocate yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but then, you go to other places and maybe the counselor has more resources or is able to
Mhm.
talk, or maybe the teacher takes interest in you, or maybe there's wraparound services programs that are able to
Right.
push you through the system. So, I think that affected my outlook of why I became an educator,
Okay.
even all the way up into higher ed. My undergrad experience, even though it was a quote unquote private art school, small classrooms, you would think that it would be this amazing, nurturing thing. But, there was a lot of, let's just call it what is an inherent racism and
Mm.
classism, especially in the arts field, of who is and who isn't able to practice art and participate in that professionally. So I think all of that affected it, and no pun intended, but I wanted to be a bridge
Yeah.
between industry, what was happening in industry, and students who may not have access to getting into industry and getting this type of education in the arts. That's been my driving motivation, my modus operandi for my whole career.
So if I can just go lean in more, if you could go back to Amarpal year 2, year 3 in the classroom teaching.
Oh,
What
wow.
did you teach, by the way?
Well, it's funny because it was completely by accident.
Perfect.
I so senior year undergrad, there was a internship class, and we had an opportunity to either reach out to a school or a company to get an internship.
Mm.
I did pick a company, but then later the opportunity presented itself to volunteer at an after school and an hour a week. And I was like, well, yeah, I could volunteer and do arts projects with kindergartners and pre-K,
Babies.
completely free. And it was very fulfilling, very,
Yeah.
all that good, mushy, feel good
Yeah.
stuff, right? Who doesn't like little kids?
Yeah.
And doing art. And but then the founder, Mike Piskel, was like, hey, we're gonna turn into a real school. I want to hire you. You have a
Wow.
college degree, don't you? I was like, yeah, but I'm an illustrator and I work at movie studios. What could I possibly know about the classroom? He said, well, fine, you'll design the programs and we'll hire qualified teachers. So I actually learned from the qualified teachers I was hiring as I designed these
Oh,
programs.
I love this.
And I was probably teaching above their quote unquote standards grade level, but I was like teaching things that I thought that elementary school students would be interested in. And I was designing programs like that.
So what would you go back and tell that younger Amarpal?
Well, I think at that point, you're always a little anxious. You don't know what you don't know. Like, it's going to be okay. And yeah, it's like, you can't, hindsight's 2020. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't change anything necessarily. I don't know that I'd listen to myself. The me then, I was really stubborn. I didn't want to, I don't know.
Are you not stubborn anymore?
My partner would disagree, but yeah, maybe a little less stubborn.
I got a story.
Okay.
My younger self, my fifth. I was, before I came to ICEF, this is all coming together. Before me and Am and Nick met, I was gonna quit education. I was gonna leave. I was at a school.
What
Charter
year?
Oak.
What year were you? What was going
Charter
on?
Oak. It was year 5.
Okay.
So I started in Pomona. I was a middle school teacher at Pomona for 3 years. It's fantastic. I wanted to teach high school and I wanted to coach basketball at the high school. I couldn't do it at Pomona High School or any other school. So I was like, I'm going to leave and go somewhere else. So I left. I got recruited to go teach, to start a physics program at Charter Oak. 3rd year, my 4th year, started at Charter Oak. The lady who recruited me made my life like just terrible.
Okay.
She was on me. I hated going to work. My wife made me at the time. Well, my wife when we were having this conversation, she made me, why stay or leave. So I had to make this list of things. And I'm like, this is terrible. This is horrible. I felt totally alienated. And I was like, I'm gonna give it one more shot. I'm gonna find a school to go to. Glendora gave me the job, a biology job. And then I got a job to teach downtown at this charter school. And I was telling my friend, I was like, yo, I think I'm gonna go to Glendora. It's a high performance school, whatever. She was like, Ntoya, Glendora is so white. I was like, oh wow, that's interesting because I would have been teaching any students of color. The school I was going to was 100%, African American. Decided on going to that school, and it really shaped what's happening right now. And I think, if I were to talk to my 4th and 5th year in teacher self, I would tell him, find your people. You gotta find your people, stick with your people. And for some reason, this analogy always rings true to me. Like, a screwdriver is horrible at being a hammer. A hammer is horrible at being a screwdriver, right? So you got to find your thing. Whatever your thing is, you'll be the best. Once the screwdriver finds a screw, it's the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
Right? Once the hammer finds the nail to knock it in, it's the best thing in the world. Right? So you got to find your thing.
Yeah.
And whatever your thing is, find other people who also like similar things, and you come together with them, because that's what's going to propel you through the tough times,
Yeah.
through the times when you may not feel as valued.
Mm.
Maybe you're unsure of what direction you're going to move in,
Yeah.
but you've got that thing and the people who are going to help you with that thing, and that is what's going to keep you moving.
I
And
love it.
ever since like meeting Am and Nick, we came together. Then I left that situation, and other things happened, but they were still with me through that time. And then I found other people online who I connected with. I was like, I wish these people were with me when I started my journey.
Yeah.
Right? It would have gave me excitement. It would have gave me things to look forward to. It gave me things to strive for, what to get better at, how to hone my craft.
Oh,
But I think you need to find your people and find your thing.
and your
Find those
thing.
two together. That's what's going to propel you to longevity.
I love it. I love it. I can't thank you, all three of you, but you two gentlemen enough. Story is power, and I am grateful that we were able to get a little bit of your story in here. And I'm excited that you're in my life, Amarpal and Nick. And like, that's the best part of doing these episodes, is I'm walking away with my own network kind of growing and evolving, and very self-serving of me, but I'm a connector, right? And so thank you for the time. And Toutoule, I can't wait for our next project, whatever it may be. We're not done with each other, though. I don't think we're done.
Way. No way. No way. No way.
Well, thank you both. We'll make sure to put all your contact info in the show notes. And I think that's a wrap. I think we're gonna wrap it right there.
Awesome. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks,
Thanks, Kate.
gentlemen.
That time for us. Really appreciate it.
Amazing.